Welcome back to a new deep dive, and on this occasion is the UAD Minimoog. This guide is like a crash course. At the description or the timeline, you have all the chapters and you can learn about something today, skip a section or come back a different day to keep learning. If you like what I do, please like the video, and this channel is supported by viewers only. If you want to buy me a coffee to say thanks and help the channel keep going on, you can. You have links at the description for PayPal, YouTube Thanks, and Patreon. And okay, so it makes sense that we start with the things that make sounds, and we need to talk about the oscillator bank. You have 3 different oscillators, and they are pretty much the same. You have tiny little differences. But before anything, you need to know that this synthesizer is a monophonic synthesizer. Nowadays, you have a lot of emulations of this plugin, and most of them can be polyphonic. In the case of the UAD, which is this one, it tries to be a faithful type of recreation, so you don't get a polyphonic instrument, you get a monophonic synthesizer. So on a Mini, you have 3 different oscillators, the 1, the 2, the 3, and the 4, and right here you have the volume control. And of course, if you want to listen all the 3 different ones at the same time, you just, play and the volume goes up. In this case, I'm going to go volume down for the 2 and for the 3, and I'm just going to use the 1 for now. In terms of waveforms, you get the classic waveforms. You get the triangle, and notice that it's not a perfect triangle. And of course, this is an emulation, so you don't get that kind of a super digital type of sound. Still, it looks like a triangle, so it's a triangle. Then you get a tri-saw, which it was pretty normal back in the day. Then you get a saw with a lot more harmonics. Notice that it's not perfect. That's what we want from an emulation. And then you get a pulse. You have a narrow pulse. And then you have a super narrow pulse. I'm going to go to maybe the tri-saw. Why not? And right here you have your range. You can go to 32s. You can go to 16, 8, 4, and 2. So think of this as the octave control for each of the oscillators. The other oscillators are just a little bit different. I'm going to go down in volume and go up in volume of the 2. In the case of this one, it's just the same waveforms as the oscillator number 1. You get the same range control, just completely the same. The only difference is that right here you have a fine-tune control. You can go up to 7 up, and I'm talking about semitones, and then 7 down. I'm going to put the first one on saw and this one on saw, and I'm going to use the volume of 1 and 2. If you play it, this one, a tiny little trick, if you just change it or offset the tuning just a little bit from the first one, you will be getting kind of a bigger sound. If you control-click on this control, it's going to go back to the default position, and when both are completely aligned, they are not completely offset, so you get a much more narrow sound. So sometimes, offsetting just a tiny little bit will give you this nice detuned sound. I'm going to go back to a default patch, and I'm going to use the oscillator number 1. This one is a little bit special, and it's because this one can be used as a modulation source. Now, on the lower panel, we have extended controls that you didn't get on the original one. On the original one, you could use the 3 as a modulation source or LFO. And right now, if I go down in the volume of all the controls, and notice that you have a switch right here, this is to turn on the oscillator. I'm going to go to the 3, and the third one, it's all the way up, but it's not on. So if I turn it on, still, if I play something, notice that we don't get anything. But if we see the spectrum, notice that it's doing something. And this is because this is working as an LFO type of oscillator. And also the range is on low, so it means that we are using it as a low frequency oscillator. If you want to get a normal oscillator sound from this one, you need to get it out from the low. So if I go to 16, now we get, the sound. I'm going to put it on the center, and now it's going to be in tune. So we get the same waveforms almost. There's a tiny little difference. The tri-saw, it's not here on the oscillator 3. We have the same waveforms than before, but now we have an inverted saw, which is the same saw, but backwards. Now I'm going to be playing different keys. And notice that nothing happens. It's only playing the same pitch, the same note. And this is because of this button. Since we can use this oscillator as a modulation source, this disabling the oscillator from the keyboard. So it doesn't matter which key I'm playing. this one, it's not listening to the keyboard. If we want to play different pitches, well, I'm gonna need to enable this one. And if I play different keys, you know, we can hear that it's just listening to my keyboard. So that's the main difference. You can use the 1 and the 2 and the 3 as a normal oscillator, but if you want to use this one as an LFO, and we will talk about this in a minute, you need to go and put it on off. I guess this is an off. Now on top of this, I'm going to go up on the volume of 1 and 2, and I'm going to turn them on. If I play something, you do have a global tune, so you can tune everything up or down. Right, and again, Control or Command, I guess it's Alt, not Control, Alt and Command, and click, it will go back to the center. Okay, so let's just keep moving forward. Out of the oscillator bank, we're gonna go to the mixer. We already know the volume and the switches, but now we need to talk about this. Well, I'm gonna turn everything off, all the oscillators off, and we have a noise generator. If I play something, you know, we get pretty much nothing. I'm gonna turn this one on, and now we get noise, and you get to choose between white and then pink noise. And right here you have the volume control. Pretty easy. But then at the top you have a different control. You have the external input volume. Now, this is something that was on the original one. To turn this section on, of course, you need to turn it on and then select how loud it is. And notice that when you play it, you get an overload, and it sounds a little bit funky. Right? It sounds a little bit weird. One popular hack with the Mini was to take the out and feed it back to the external input. And I'm talking, you know, about hardware and just, you know, cables. You take the output and then you feed it back into the back panel. And since you're feeding back to the circuit, what you will be getting is an overload. You're kind of saturating or distorting the sound. So if I just maybe enable a waveform like a saw, or maybe I'm going to go something, you know, maybe to a triangle, something, you know, it's not super aggressive, a triangle and a tri-saw, I guess that's fine. As soon as I crank this up, you will start to get a little bit more saturation, and it will start overloading. Now you need to go easy on this one, because if you do too much, you're gonna be getting a distorted sound. If I go down, super mild, or saturated. If I go all the way up, it's gonna be pretty destroyed. Now, back in the day, a lot of guys that owned this, the original hardware, they modified the circuit to get the feedback without the cable. Without the mod, you needed to use a cable. And this is why at the bottom you see input, and it says external, or it says feedback. If the switch is on feedback, it's emulating the, you know, the feeding back without using the cable, pretty much. That's what it's doing. If we go to external and I go up on this one, notice that we get nothing. So in this case, it's kind of emulating or just using an external cable. That's why it says external. Now, the thing is that this is a plugin. You know, we have no cables. So external, it says in the manual that we can, with an Apollo interface, use the audio in to simulate this feeding back to the circuit. Now, I don't have an Apollo, so I cannot recreate it here or maybe check it out. But, you know, if the manual says so, it means that you can do it, I guess. All right, so let's keep moving forward. We know the oscillator bank, the mixer, and now we need to go right here. Like I said before, the oscillator modulation, since it says modulation, it belongs to the modulation section. I'm going to cover that in a minute. And then it says at the top, filter modulation, and right now it's on. So if I use modulation, I will be modulating this control. I don't want it now. I'm going to explain this in a minute. So now, you know, we have the filter. Why should we use the filters? Well, this is a subtractive synthesizer. It means that you create a sound, you output a sound. I'm going to do it right now. And then you chop the frequencies that you don't want. And it's usually the higher frequencies. So as you go down, this is a 24 dBs per octave type of filter, and you chop the higher frequencies out. Now, when you chop the frequencies, you have the emphasis or resonance. And when you boost, this will boost the frequencies right at the breakpoint of the filter. And we can get it to self-resonate. That's why we get this sound. Now, if I go down, I want you to notice something. If I play a key, I'm gonna maybe play a lower key. And I'm gonna go up on this one. If I go up, notice it, something happens. And I want you to take a look at this spectrum, this size, this part of the spectrum, the lower frequencies. And this is something very, very normal with this type of filter, is a ladder type of filter. As you boost the resonance, you lose low frequencies. Of course, you're boosting this part, but you're losing the lows. And again, this is something normal with this type of filters. You have a lot of different types of filters. Okay, so that's the cutoff and the emphasis. Then coming up next is the amount of contour. Now, back in the day, and this is a pretty old synthesizer, they used different keywords. Right now, nowadays, 2025, the emphasis it's resonance, and in terms of amount of contour, we use a different keyword, which is maybe a filter modulation or filter envelope. Now, the amount of contour is in charge of modulating this cutoff frequency, and this is a depth type of control, is how much we want to modulate the cutoff frequency. How can we modulate this control? Well, for now, I'm going to go all the way down. So what I want to do is that every time I play a key, I want this cutoff to go up and then goes down, right? I want to do that. I play a key, goes up and goes down. And every time I play a key, we want this motion. How can we get it? Well, with the envelope that you have right here at the bottom. Maybe if I want a smooth going up, well, that's going to be the attack time. If we choose something that is slow, well, it's going to slowly go up. Then the decay time is how fast it's going to go down. If we do something like that, we go all the way down, it's going to be super fast. But if I go up, it's going to take a while to go down. And then the sustain level, it means that it will sustain at some point in between if we are just holding a key. Now, if you don't know how an envelope works, don't worry, I'm going to give you an envelopes 101 in a minute. Now, right now, if I play something, nothing happens. There's no motion right here. It's not doing something like that. It's not doing it. And it's because we need to use an amount of contour. This is the depth. So the amount is how this envelope will modulate the frequency, the cutoff frequency. So I'm going to go maybe down, and I'm going to do just a tiny little bit. I'm going to put everything at noon, maybe, and the sustain, I'm going to keep it down for now. If I play it, that's what happens. It goes up and goes down. Now, it's not super aggressive. If you want more, then you go up on this control. And then we get that motion. If you want that, maybe resonance peak, that classic Moog type of sound, we get it. If I go up, it's gonna be a little bit too aggressive. But this is again completely up to you and the sound that you want to get. So that's the amount of contour, how much modulation we want to apply to the cutoff when we use the envelope. Now then you have a different matter, and I'm gonna maybe keep the emphasis at 6, and I'm gonna keep the cutoff frequency maybe right here. Maybe a little bit less. There we go. So you have this keyboard control, and it says on if it's on this position, so I'm gonna be turning this off. So both are off. If I play a key, this is pretty dark. If I go up, still pretty dark, right? And it's because we are cutting a lot of the frequencies and we cannot hear the higher keys. So when I go to higher keys, it's super dark because we are cutting all the high frequencies. And the cutoff, it's not adjusting to my keyboard. That's what it means pretty much. So if we want the cutoff to maybe go up a little bit when we play higher keys, well, then we use the keyboard control. For now, I'm going to go to this one, to on. And you're going to notice the difference. I'm going to keep it on maybe -2. If I play a higher key, notice how it sounds. If I turn this off, it's super dark. So what this keyboard control, again, it's doing is scaling or recognizing which keys we are playing. And it's just kind of opening the cutoff frequency a little bit more so we can hear the higher frequencies. So why do we have 2? Well, this one is the upper and this one is the lower. The upper will apply a 1/3 of keyboard control, and the lower one is going to be 2/3. So it's a little bit more aggressive than the upper one. So if I enable this one, is this a little bit more aggressive? And I'm playing the same key so you can really tell the difference. I'm going to turn it off, super dark. And if I turn this one on, a little bit brighter, but not as much as the second one. And one thing that you can do is to enable both, and now you have full keyboard control. It's going to be full aggressive, or a hard, as much as it can go. It makes sense because if this one is 1/3 and this one is 2/3, so it's kind of a fully on. Right, so back to a default patch, and I'm going to give you an envelopes 101 with the loudness control. Why? Well, maybe you're just starting with synthesis and you're a little bit confused in how an envelope works. Well, I'm going to explain how it works right now. If you already know how it works, well, you can move forward to the next section. I will go down on emphasis, down on the amount of contour, all the way up on frequency. And maybe I'm just going to be using a tri-saw and then a tri-saw on the number 2. So if I play it, it sounds a little bit like that. Now I'm going to go here and I'm going to go all the way down on the attack, all the way down on the decay, all the way down on the sustain. Now the loudness contour decides how the sound goes out of the synthesizer. On a real synth, we take the cable from the back and then we take it maybe to our DAW or maybe interface or whatever that you want to use, and then you get the sound. So behind the scenes on a synthesizer, the oscillators will output sound constantly every time that you play a key. So something needs to shape how the sound goes out of the synthesizer, and it's going to be this envelope. And usually you have an A, D, S, and then R, which is attack, decay, sustain, and release. On the Mini, you don't have a release. What you have is a decay. I'm going to explain this in a minute. But yeah, since this one is old, you don't have a release. You only have attack, decay, and sustain. Now, the attack time is going to be, it's a time-based knob. That's why you see seconds right here. The decay, it's also a time-based control. And then the sustain, notice it's a little bit different. It's a level. It's not a time. And okay, so if I play a key, notice that we get almost nothing. We get just a tiny little blip. Why? Because, all the knobs are completely down, so they're super close. So the sound is super short. Now, the attack time will decide how long will it take for the sound to go up to full amplitude. If it's all the way down, it's just pretty short. But now, maybe I'm going to go to 1, I'm going to play a key, and the sound goes up, and then it dies. And right now, I'm holding a key. We don't have a visual keyboard on this plugin, but I'm holding it. So it's going to take in this case 1 second, to go up. I play it, goes up, and then the sound will die. Then if I go to 5, the sound will take a lot longer. It's going to take 5 seconds, and at some point, after 5 seconds, the sound will die abruptly. And this is what the attack time will do on an envelope. It decides how slow it goes up in amplitude. Now I'm still holding a key and the sound really dies very abruptly. So this is what the decay time will decide. How long will it take for the sound to go down? Right now it's super fast, so as soon as it goes down, it's just super fast. But if I go up on the decay time, I'm gonna go to 1 second because it's just too long. I'm gonna go 1 on the decay time. Now if I play a key, I'm gonna play it in 3, 2, 1. Sound goes up, maximum amplitude, and then it will decay, but it will decay in a slow fashion. That's the plan. This is what the decay will do. I'm going to do it again, 1 second, maybe a little bit less on the decay time because it's pretty slow. The sound will go up, attack, maximum amplitude, and it will start decaying. And I'm still holding the key. How can I make the sound sustain? Well, that's the sustain level. When I'm holding a key, I'm sustaining the key. So it means that the sound needs to sustain at some point in between. So if the sound goes up, it's gonna go down at the decay time, and then the sound will need to sustain at some level, maybe right here at the bottom or maybe all the way at the top. And I'm gonna play it in 3, 2, 1. Attack goes up, then decay goes down, and since I'm holding the key, it needs to sustain, but maybe the level is just not enough. I'm gonna put it on around 4. So now we need to sustain at some point when it goes down. I'm gonna play it, it's gonna go up, attack, then goes down to the decay, and I'm still holding a key, and the sound is sustaining around here. And that's what the sustain will do. Of course, if we go all the way up on the sustain, it will pretty much disable the decay time, because it will sustain when we are at the highest. So there's no decay. I'm gonna play it, sound goes up, and it will never enter into the decay stage, because the sustain is all the way up. This is something that you need to remember. It's important. When I play a key, and I'm gonna go faster in the attack time, when I play a key, I'm gonna go up, maybe I'm gonna go less on the sustain, it's gonna go up, then it goes down to the decay, and then it's gonna sustain. Now, when I'm holding the key, when I release the key, the sound will just die super fast. And this is kind of the nature of this synthesizer. If I play something, it's a monophonic synthesizer, of course, but when we play, every time I'm done playing a key, the sound will just die very fast. That's how it works. And it's because we don't have a release. And the release on an ADSR type of envelope decides how fast will the sound die when I release the key. And this synth, we don't have a release stage, but we do have a decay. So when this button is off, the release is going to be super fast. So I play a key, and when I release it, the sound will die. If I turn this on, notice how different now it is. The release, it's not short, it's kind of a long. And it says decay because now there's a release stage that we don't see, but it's using the decay time as a value. So if I go maybe to 1, now we have an attack, decay, sustain, and release using the same times that we use as a decay. So when we go up on the decay and we are using decay on, the release, it's super long, and I'm not holding a key. I'm not holding it, I'm just tapping the keys. Since the decay time is long, the release, it's super long. If I go less, of course it's going to be less. Like I said before, I'm not holding keys. I'm going to do a little bit less, no sustain. But it takes a long time to die now. If I disable this, really the release is very short. And that's how an envelope works. In this case, we are controlling the volume of the synthesizer, how the sound goes out. I'm gonna go attack time all the way down, maybe all the way down on the decay. I'm gonna go up on the sustain, and maybe I'm just gonna leave the decay on. And it's really important for you to know how an envelope works, because it's how you will shape the sound. If I keep everything off and I play a key, it will play or just appear as soon as I play a key, but maybe you want something that smoothly goes in. If you want something like that sounds like keys, you want a little bit of release, so you need to turn the decay on and then just add it. Another thing is that the frequency, the amount of contour, uses kind of the same envelope logic. We have an attack, a decay, a sustain, and also it uses the decay. So if I want to cut some frequencies and use the amount of contour, now we need to use this envelope to instruct the cutoff in how it needs to modulate or how it needs to move. And I'm going to go down on this, down on the decay, all the way up on the sustain. So now if I play a key, there's a motion. Why? Because the attack time, this envelope, is telling the cutoff frequency how to move up and down. If I want maybe something that goes super slow, well, I need an attack time, and now it will be a lot slower. If I want something super fast, maybe with the long decay time, we get that sound, but maybe if I make it shorter, we have kind of the fundamentals for a bass type of patch. So yeah, understanding how an envelope works, especially on this synthesizer, it's just highly important. Okay, so now it's time to talk about the modulation. And if you're a beginner, this is the the hard part to understand of this synthesizer, but that's fine. Don't worry, I'm going to show you how it works. On the original Mini, on the original synthesizer, and this emulation is very true to that. And this emulation, it's very true to the original synth. You have two main things that you can modulate, which is the oscillator modulation and the filter modulation. The oscillator modulation is the pitch of the three oscillators that you have right here. So if this one is on, when we run a modulation, it will modulate the pitch. And if you turn it off, we can run a modulation and it will not modulate this. Now on the other side, you have the filter modulation, and this modulation is the cutoff modulation. So we can use an LFO to make it go up and down constantly if we wanted to. If this one is off, we cannot modulate the cutoff frequency. So in conclusion, you have two different targets: the frequency or pitch of the oscillators and the cutoff frequency. Now something needs to modulate this target, so you need a source, and you have it right here at the bottom: modulation and then mix. And you have two different sources. You have the A and then you have the B. For now, I'm going to go all the way to the A, and you need to decide what you want to modulate. I'm going to go maybe to the filter modulation because, why not? And I'm going to play something, maybe amount of contour all the way down, and I want to see right here, maybe, the breakpoint. So what I want to see is something that does something like that. So when you go and you select the A, you need to go at the bottom. And right here, you have the sources. When you're using the A, you can use the oscillator 3 as a modulation source, or you can use the envelope 2. I'm going to just choose the oscillator 3. And this is what we discussed previously. We can use this oscillator, the number 3, to run a modulation and then, again, modulate something. Make sure that this one is on. Since we are using the 3, we need to decide how much of the oscillator 3 will modulate the cutoff. So we need to decide the depth. So this one is the modulation amount that we have right here. Right now, there's no modulation, even if this one is on and this one is all the way to the A. So we need to decide again how much we want. We provide an amount, and now it's modulating. It's going to the frequency and doing up and down. Why it's doing up and down? Well, the oscillator 3, it's controlling that. It's a triangle, so it goes up and down, and it's on low frequency. And make sure that this one is all the way down. This control, of course, changes the frequency of the oscillator. And whenever you go down in frequency, it's just going to go slower. If you go up, it's going to go faster. Since, of course, this uses an envelope, a shape, you can change this. And this is why this oscillator, it's different in terms of waveforms. It's so we can use it as a modulation source. So then you have the ramp up, and then you have the square or pulses, which are more like an on and off type of deal. On, off, on, off. Shorter, on, off, and on, off, and the same thing with the other one. So yeah, that's when we use the oscillator 3. Still, this one is an oscillator that now it's working as an LFO because we are using low. If I go to 32, we are using an oscillator type of range, so it's much faster. If I go up, it's super fast. And when you go super fast and you modulate the cutoff frequency, you maybe get different tones. I turn this off, it sounds completely different. Right, so super different. I'm gonna go all the way up. And if I go even higher, it's going to be faster and faster and faster and faster. That's how different it sounds. If I combine this with a little bit of overload, it sounds super cool. The Oscillator 3 has the Oscillator 3 control off. And if you remember, this one is disconnected from the keyboard. So when we play a key, and maybe I'm going to go too low so we can really hear this, it doesn't care. There we go. It doesn't care which key we are playing. It will always go at the same speed. I'm going up on the pitch of my keyboard, and it's going always at the same rate. And it's because this oscillator now, it's disconnected from the keyboard. It doesn't care which key I'm playing. But if I connect it to the keyboard, now it's listening. So every time I play a key, it changes the speed or the rate. If I go up and play higher keys, it will go faster. Now same if I go to lower keys. As I go down in pitch, it will start getting slow. And it's just super slow as we go down in the keys. So upper keys, faster. Lower keys, slower. And this again, it's because this is enabled and connected to our keyboard. The Oscillator 3 is like the main modulation source, at least on the original one. Right here, you have a lot of different options because this is a plugin. I could go to the envelope 2, and now what it's modulating, the whatever target, is going to be the envelope. So if I play a key, I'm going to go to this control, and this one will modulate the pitch. And if I change it, now we are using the envelope, and the envelope works the same way than when we used the amount of contour. In this case, it's just modulating the pitch, not the filter. So if I go all the way down on the attack, decay, sustain, there's almost no modulation. It's just super short. A little bit of attack. It's going to go up, then it's going to go up and down. And that's how it works. If I want to sustain at some point in between, well, then I need to provide a little bit of sustain. Now you can, of course, use the envelope 2 to modulate the pitch, and you can use it to modulate the filter, but this one is already connected to the filter, so you kind of don't need to. Now on this plugin, you get the B side, and this one is super cool. I'm going to go all the way right here to the B side. And right here, when you go to the B, you can use something else as a modulation source. I'm going to turn off the oscillator modulation and maybe go just to the filter. Now if I play it all the way up, it's just going to use noise. It's using noise to modulate the cutoff frequency. Which noise? Well, the noise, our noise. That's why when we change it, it sounds different. White, pink. Then we have the S and H. What is S and H? Well, it's sample and hold, and it's random. It's a way of random. If I maybe disable this and go to the oscillator modulation, now we get, that kind of a behavior, let's say. Now the sample and hold, what it does behind the scenes, just to give you a tiny little explanation, it uses an unpredictable source like noise. And it takes samples from that noise at a very specific rate. And it uses a clock from a different source that it's not the noise to know when to take the samples to generate this, random type of sound. Usually it's an LFO or some clock. In this case, the clock for the sample and hold is this control, the LFO clock or frequency. If I go down, it's going to be slower. If I go up, it's going to be faster. I'm going to explain this LFO in a second. It's just pretty simple. If you do command and then alt, it's going to go back to the frequency. So that's sample and hold. It's just random. And then you have the other source, which is LFO. And this is something, again, that we don't have on the original unit, on the original synthesizer. But we get it right here. And you get a very simple LFO. It's not a super complex one. What you get is kind of a triangle type of modulation. You decide how fast you modulate with this control, with the frequency. It can go up, it's gonna go super fast, or just super slow. Or you can use a square, which is, if you remember, the on and off type of deal. Right now the sync is off because if it's off, this one is in hertz. But we can sync it to our DAW tempo and it will use divisions. Now, something very cool with this synthesizer is that you can use a mix of the A and the B. You don't need to go all the way to the A or all the way to the B. Let's say I want to use the oscillator 3 and a little bit of maybe sample and hold. Well, you can. Right here is the oscillator 3, and right here sample and hold. I can do a little bit of both. Or maybe more of A and less of B, which is more predictable, or more of B and less of A, which is unpredictable because we are using sample and hold. Or maybe use an LFO and just, use a different shape than the one we are using right here, and you will get interesting sounds. Back to a default patch, and you have the key mode. Now this one, it's just pretty simple, and this is something that you get on most synthesizers. Maybe I'm gonna just cut a little bit of the frequencies. If not, it's gonna be a little bit too bright. I'm gonna go down on the amount of contour. Let me see how this sounds. And I'm gonna go down on the sustain. No attack and a little bit more of decay, maybe to the 600s. So if I play a key, maybe it's just too dark. There we go, a little bit better. So I want you to notice I'm going to play a key. It's going to be a C. I'm playing and holding. Of course, the sound dies because we don't have a sustain, but I want to keep it down. So I'm going to play a key and hold it. If I play a new key, notice I'm playing them. I'm playing new keys while I'm holding a key. That's going to be legato. When we hold the key, the envelope will not be re-triggered. So the envelope is just, again, not starting again when we play new keys because I'm holding a key. And that's legato, again. So this is why you get the legato or the re-trigger. If I change the key mode to re-trigger, I'm playing and holding a key, but when I play new keys, the envelope will be re-triggered. So it doesn't matter if I'm holding a key. It will always re-trigger the envelope. With the other one, again, if I hold the key, it will not re-trigger it at all. And then you have the lowest and last. I'm going to keep it on legato for now, and maybe I'm going to go sustain all the way up. I'm going to go to lowest, and now if I play a key, I'm holding the key. And I'm going to be playing a higher key in 3, 2, 1, and I'm playing it right now. Maybe you can hear it, and it doesn't work. I'm playing a higher key than the one I'm pressing right now, and it's just not re-triggering anything. And this is because the mode is lowest. It will only react if I play a lower key than the one that I'm holding. So if I play a lower key, it will just let it play. And that's how it works by default. But if I change it to last, it doesn't care if the frequency is lower than the key that I'm pressing. That's why it's called last. If I play higher key, it's gonna work. If I play a lower key, it's gonna work. So if you ask me, the last is just a little bit more versatile. The rest of the controls are just very, very simple. You have a glide control. If you don't know what glide is, of course you need to turn it on. If I play a key and I have a long glide, and I play a new key, the sound will glide to the next note. And that's how glide sounds. Of course, if you go wild on this control, it's going to take a long time to glide to the next note. Now then you have the bend range in terms of semitones, when you bend, like I'm doing right now with my bend wheel, you can go only, in this case, 2 semitones up or 2 down. But, you know, if I go all the way up, now it's going to go 12 semitones up or 12 down. Simple as that. Now, then you have the velocity controls. I'm going to turn off the glide for now, and I'm going to open the filter just a tiny little bit. Maybe that's too much. There we go. To use the velocity options that you have right here, you need to use a MIDI controller that can output velocity. So it needs to be a velocity sensitive type of controller. And this essentially what it will do, it will take the velocity of your keys and it will apply it to the cutoff, to the filter contour, to this knob, or maybe to the loudness, which is going to be the volume. And since I'm using a velocity sensitive type of controller, I'm going to go all the way up on this one. If I play soft, playing very soft. If I play hard, it's going to open the cutoff frequency because I'm playing hard. So of course, if you play at different velocities, it will open the filter in different ways. That's the idea. Now then on the other side, you have the filter contour, which is the same idea, but it's going to be for this one. And I'm going to open the contour just a tiny little bit. If I play soft, it does nothing. If I play hard, it's a little bit more. I'm going to be doing a little bit more. Soft, hard. You know, you can hear it. I'm going to do a little bit more, up to 6. Soft, hard, and I'm really smashing the pads. I'm using pads right now. So soft, and if I do something in between, you can hear how different velocities can affect the contour. And then, as you could guess, on the other side we have the loudness, and this is the volume of the what comes out of the synthesizer. So if I play soft, we get almost nothing. But then if I start playing with different velocities, it will be, the volume will go up. Now you don't need to go crazy on this one, you can do just a tiny little bit. And I can play at different volumes. Now this is maybe too much. I'm gonna play soft. I play hard, it's louder. Soft, harder. Soft, hard. And alright, so hopefully you learned how this synthesizer works. And if you like what I do, please like the video. This channel is supported by viewers only. If you want to buy me a coffee to say thanks and help the channel keep going on, you can. You have links at the description for PayPal, YouTube Thanks, and Patreon.